Thank you all for having me today. I want to just take a couple minutes to tell you a little bit about the Lone Survivor Foundation and what specifically I'm looking for here in North Carolina relative to the foundation. Lone Survivor Foundation, many of you may have seen the movie The Lone Survivor about former Navy SEAL retired Marcus Luttrell and his adventures in Afghanistan. I use the term adventures loosely. He is the founder of this foundation. The foundation's mission is to restore, empower, and renew hope in our veterans and their families through wellness and therapeutic retreats. Our retreats are not peer-to-peer retreats. They're not recreational retreats. These are hard-working therapeutic and wellness retreats. All the people at our retreats that work with the soldiers are certified in their particular fields, whether it's mental health or whatever their specialty is. Lone Survivor Foundation has been around since 2010, so we're not a new organization. We are doing very well. We're moving forward. We have a facility already in existence in Bolivar, Texas, which I'm going to share a little bit with you on that in a bit. But we've outgrown the facility. The demand for what we're doing, which is basically working with soldiers in a therapeutic and wellness mode, working with post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, military sexual trauma, and chronic pain. Those are our total focus. That's all we're focused on and all we're doing. And the demand is overwhelming. We're already booked for this year, 2018. We have about 3 spaces left, I think, out of all of our retreats. Last year we did 38 retreats. They're 5-day retreats. Our retreats are what I call progressive. We do them first for veterans as well as caretakers, and then we do them for couples, and then we do them for families. And they are progressive. We found a long time ago that you've got to treat the veteran first, you got to treat the couple second, and then the family. It's a kind of focus on the me, on the us, and then the them. And if you don't do it in that order, it turns into a finger-pointing contest, especially in therapy. Why I'm here is because we are about to build a 10,000 square foot facility in Cumberland County. Be the second facility that we've built. We service soldiers from all over the country, in fact, all over the world, but in the U.S. So the retreats are cost-free to the soldiers and their families. It doesn't cost them a dime. We fly them in from wherever they're at. We put them up, we feed them, and we feed them good. We've got some chefs that are renowned down in Texas right now. We've kind of put them on the map. But again, we focus primarily on the well-being of the whole family, which is our focus. I'm going to play you a brief video here so you can get a kind of idea about the Bolivar retreat that we have, which is our Texas one, which was the first one that was built. What I'm trying to do is get involvement from the community, because in Bolivar, I can tell you that in 2014, I knew one person that lived, Bolivar's a peninsula down around Galveston, Texas. I knew one person on Bolivar. They have embraced Lone Survivor and taken them on. The facility there is viewed as the community's facility that Lone Survivor provides services at the facility. And it's grown so much that I was actually asked, just on this past Thursday, I was asked to be the guest speaker at the Chamber of Commerce of Bolivar's annual awards banquet kind of thing. So we are part of the community, and that's what I'm seeking here, is to get community involvement, whether that's through volunteerism, through awareness, through event development, through donorships. That's what I'm after. But I want to give you a little taste about what has happened down in Texas that we hope is going to happen here in Cumberland County.
One day I got a call from Brian Byram asking me if I would be interested in helping him with a project they were thinking about.
Maybe we could build a retreat center down here at the beach. We had the property, we just didn't know if the foundation was interested.
And we started talking about who Lone Survivor was and what our mission was.
And when I met with Terry, we discovered that y'all did a little bit more than that. It wasn't just a vacation type deal, it was the therapy, which to me was even better.
They come here mainly because they're suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder or from mild traumatic brain injury or chronic pain or military sexual trauma. We usually average 8 veterans at an individual retreat. We have 4 couples, so that's also 8. Families can be, we can have up to 4 families, which can be, we've had as many as 25 at a retreat. So, but if you just said, I'd say it's typical, probably average around 10 a retreat when you average it over it, so 230.
We also discovered that the house wasn't big enough that we had drawn, so we added a house to the deal so we'd have enough room for the soldiers, their families, and the staff to be here for the retreats.
It allows us also to do exactly what we want at a facility. When you're renting facilities, there's always something missing. There's always something that's not quite right. Here we can customize to everything we want to do. We can expand the length of programs if we want. We can shorten the lengths. We can add different things. There's no end to what we could do at a facility like this. The ending piece of our retreat is we actually put a plan together for each individual that attends, that is how to move forward. And that includes maybe if it's an individual veteran that's coming to a retreat, returning with their spouse for a couples retreat, or a couple coming back for a family retreat. As we evolve, it will also include things such as helping them, if they're not employed, to connect with other organizations. We're not going to be searching out companies on their behalf, but there's a lot of other organizations that specialize in areas like that. So it's not just purely therapy referrals, it's also anything that we can do that will really help the soldier. Part of the original concept was to get away and to take them out into the soldiers into an environment that was away from the everyday life. And when you walk across the deck up there and you look out over the water and you feel the breeze in your face, you can just feel the stress of everyday life just disappear. So I would say that's the most amazing part. The other amazing part is how many parties came together and donated things to build this, everywhere from the furniture to the outdoor, to the fire pits, to the, you name it, it's here.
I've gotten to know everybody at the foundation really well, and I'm just thankful to have met you guys and got to know all of you. You're amazing people. But probably the most profound thing that I've found throughout this process was watching the community and the people all over Texas, and people as far north as Maine, contributing money and materials and time to make this happen. It restores your faith in people when you see something like this happen and have hundreds of people that all contribute their little part to make it work.
That's what this is all about. This is about helping soldiers, and they are all about that. They're 100% behind it.
That's kind of what we want to do here in North Carolina, the same thing. Except for the facility we're going to build here is twice the size of that. We've actually outgrown the size of that facility. We not only don't have enough time in the year to do enough retreats, but we also don't have the space. And so we're looking for people to help us in all kinds of ways, from the supplying of materials to build this facility, to labor, to work on the facility, to just awareness of what we're doing in the community. But we want, just as the Byrams and everyone else became, we want them to be part of this community. I do want to share, I'm going to shut up and let you do your thing here in a minute, but I do want to share something. This just We just finished a retreat at this facility on Monday. And one of the gentlemen that was there was from here in Fayetteville, but was at the retreat. It was a referral from a lady here who some of you may know, Amanda Good one, referred an individual. He went through the process, went through the retreat, and he just wrote back to Amanda and told her, I'm going to abbreviate what he said because it was a very long thing. He said, but it was the greatest thing that had happened to him since he got out of the service. Specifically, quote, they helped me more in 5 days than the VA has done in 10 years. That's what we hear all the time. And we hear things like, thank you, you saved my life. Thank you, you saved my family. Thank you, you gave me my family back. And some of the things that I want the community to feel part of, and that's what we try to do in Bolivar down in Texas, is share that this isn't just us receiving this. All we are doing is facilitating this. It's a community that should be part of this and be proud of what they're doing. In January of this month, we did a family retreat. And at the end of the retreat, I was fortunate enough, I wasn't on the road that time I was able to be at the retreat. This little girl who was probably about 7 years old came running up to me and grabbed me around the leg. And she said, thank you, thank you, thank you. You gave me my daddy back. That's what we want to share with the community. We want the people that are involved with us to feel that they are part of this. And that's what we're here to try to do in the community. Hopefully we'll put Cumberland County on the map too across the country. Like I said, nobody knew where Bolivar, Texas was, and a lot of people know where it is now. So, thank you. Oh, I did want to add one more thing. I wanted to introduce one other person that's in the room here. Morgan Sierra is retiring from the military police after 20 years of service this year. Morgan is going to be our regional North Carolina director once the facility is up and running. She has a lot of background in the military sexual assault and trauma area kind of thing, which is, to say the least, probably the most undertreated area of all issues with military right now. So I get that.
Question?
Yes.
Can you mention the location of the facility? The search for the property, has that been selected?
It's not completed yet. We are hopeful at the moment. We have we originally had a piece of property that was donated to us, and it turned out it didn't perk, which I learned all about the sandhills the hard way, and all of the issues with soil and water and everything around here. So we went on. I've been on a search for several months now, to say the area around, we try to find something that's remote so that the people can feel like they're getting away from the everyday stress. You know, we don't want something that sits on a front. Even here, you see these houses. This is actually a resort community. We don't do any retreats in the summertime when all the people come out. So all these houses that are around our facility are vacant when we're doing the retreats. So it's quiet, and it's just a 1/8 mile golf cart drive down to the beach, and you can drive the golf cart right down onto the beach. But we want to find something that's remote. Well, I found out quickly in the area here, to find something that's remote that has water and sewer and electricity to it is of any size of acreage is quite a challenge. But I can't announce it yet, but we think we have found something. We're waiting on a survey to come back in. It's a wetland survey to make sure that we can build in an area. And if we do, it'll be on a 19-acre plot of land. That'll be in an area that all of you probably know very well, but keep the fingers crossed on that. So, thank you. Yes?
Yes, can you talk a little bit about the modalities that you have at the retreat, like the different types of therapy or any
Yep.
other?
We do everything from horse therapy with Igala therapy to accelerated resolution therapy to brain mapping to group sessions, to individual sessions, We do yoga and meditation sessions that are military related. And we're always bringing new modalities in and out, putting them in. The whole thing is to try to put pieces together so they fit. I like to try to tell people a story of how they fit by just giving one example of one of the modalities. Have any of you been involved in brain mapping?
I've just been researching a little bit.
Okay. Brain mapping is basically you connect an individual's head to some electrodes, basically put on a shower cap with some electrodes in it kind of thing, which, that's always a fun experience with the males when you first want to do that with them. It's kind of like the first time you introduce it to yoga, but what it does is it allows them to sit in front of a computer screen, it can be as large as this computer screen, and actually see the interior of their brain and see the chemical changes that are taking place in their brain and the concentrations of the chemicals in their brain. And they can actually see as when they start to get anxious and when they start to get mad, how the brain and the chemical flow in their brain actually changes. So an example of the progress that happens with a soldier, I would say that, I don't have an exact percentage because I'm just estimating based on the retreats that I go to, but a very high percentage, definitely way over 75%, of the soldiers that walk through the front door are basically, as was this gentleman who just wrote to us, have been struggling with the VA and other groups for years. Or they can be active service. They don't have to be veterans. They can be active service members too. And they walk in the door with kind of an attitude of they're defeated. And I can hear in a lot of their voices, this person is 6 to 9 months away from suicide. You can hear it and you can see it in people. They're not going to tell you. The real people that are going to commit suicide are not the ones that pick up the phone and dial 911. They're going to do it. They're going to do it. They don't need to call anything. And so they walk in with this, I'm just so emotionally and mentally messed up that nobody can help me. They've reached that point. Well, all of a sudden you do all these different modalities like brain mapping, and you show the guy, it's not you. You're not emotionally messed up and mentally messed up. It's a chemical change that's happening in your head that's causing a lot of this. And now that you see that, let's work for the next couple of days on finding some ways that we can control that so that you're not going down into a deep, dark hole all the time. Or if you start to go into the dark hole, as we call it, you can snap out of it a lot quicker. And some of the things that snap people out of it are pretty funny. There's a couple. My favorite one is the 19-year-old guy that what snapped him out of it is he goes through I Love Lucy reruns in his mind. And when he thinks of Lucy, all of his negativity goes away. And when I first heard that, I said to the guy, I said, are you old enough to even know who Lucy is, kind of thing? I mean, it totally freaked me out. But he called me up. It was like 2 or 3 months after he'd been to the retreat. And he goes, hi, this is Lucy. And he said, it's still working, kind of thing. So, and for everybody, it's different. I mean, some things it's a lot more serious that they focus on, but it's something visual, some of it's sound, that we try to explore. Well, now all of a sudden they go from, I'm helpless and I'm only here because my buddy said, you need to go to this because it worked for me. 95% of everybody that goes to our retreats is on referrals from other soldiers that have been to the retreats. They've gone from I'm helpless and nobody can help me to, oh, this is a chemical change in my brain. And oh, there are things I can do to kind of manage it. I'm not going to make it go away, although there are some new things that they're talking about. Maybe they will be able to make it go away soon. I can change it and control it. But then the best part is at nighttime, that same soldier will go outside, and we always have kind of the therapists go away for the day, and we kind of get the soldiers around the pit, a fire pit at nighttime, or do something outside together as a group. And inevitably, one of the guys will be sitting at the fire, and he'll look next to the guy next to him and say, you put that weird shower cap on your head with the electrodes and all, because they're not real technical, you know, they just know what's happening. And inevitably another guy will look at him and go, yeah, that was amazing, wasn't it, kind of thing. So what happened there? Somebody walked in the front door thinking they were helpless, they couldn't be helped, and I'm just giving you one module example, because what I think we have been successful at that other foundations have not been successful at, in addition to working with the whole family, is we have been able to take all these modalities and link them. And I'm just giving you one of these pieces that links into all of the other ones to help restore hope. Again, we don't cure anybody. You know, at this point in time, there is no cure for these things. You teach them how to deal with it and have a new normal in their life. That's the key. It's get people to a new normal so they can adjust and go forward with everything. I hope the day comes when they are totally healed, but that isn't the case right now. The main thing we can do is restore the hope in them at the retreats and give them basically a toolkit to leave the retreat to go to their home marketplace to further their efforts. So we would, every modality that we expose somebody to at the retreats, when they leave, we give them a whole list of who the providers are that are in their local market that provide these services that they can continue forward. So, question?
So, how do you guys make money?
Purely through donation.
Really?
Take no money from the government, don't want any money from the government, don't want the government telling us how to do it, because if they were doing it, we wouldn't be doing retreats. We do modalities, accelerated resolution therapy, which at least one person in the room is familiar with. We started doing that about 5 years ago, and when we first started doing it, the VA and people were throwing fruit at us, you know, saying that's taboo, that's blah, 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 blah. Now it's probably the most sought after therapy, and the problem is there's not enough people around to teach it. Every military base in America is trying to do it. That's what we try to do, is we try to stay in the forefront of all the technologies that, you know, haven't been. Even Igala therapy that's with horses, it's been around forever, but it's still not endorsed at this point in time, you know. And we try to help the soldiers to find ways, you know, with like brain mapping. Most of them never even heard of brain mapping. Well, TRICARE will pay for 23 sessions, neuro sessions. 90% of people don't even know about it, that they can be working on it. So they can go for 23 sessions just trying to discover what is it that can appease my brain and my emotions at some point in time. And so
what is the selection process? You mentioned that 95% of your clientele come from word of mouth, but how do you select those particular soldiers to
great question. You have to fill out an application online. We have found a long time ago, if you're not denial of an issue and the problems and really wanting to deal with your problem is still probably the number one issue. At a peak of military sexual assault by males all the way on down to more Iraq and Afghan soldiers that are the most receptive right now to these things. There's still denial. I don't have a problem. I don't need help, kind of thing. So if somebody's not willing to put the effort in to fill out an application, we're not going to buy a $1,000 airline ticket and reserve one of the few spots that we have at a retreat until we know somebody's real. So they fill out the application. It is then reviewed by one of our therapists from a medical point of view to make sure that there isn't some other issue that needs to be dealt with by that individual by talking to their physicians first before they get there. Somebody that's got a drug problem or it's got an alcohol problem, they need to deal with that first before they come to a retreat. Trying to do therapy while they're under the influence isn't going to help anybody, and it's going to have a negative effect. So it is a process online kind of thing.
And so the retreat is not focused on pharmaceutical.
We are totally opposed to pharmaceuticals. Totally. You know, the pharmaceuticals, it eats me up because and what gets me is last year we did a retreat. We've done some remotely. We did one in Utah last year, and it was a gentleman came to breakfast, and I sat across the table from him. He opened up his hand, and he had 15 pills in his hand, and he said, look at that, Terry. He says, I got to take 15 of these 3 times a day. And he says, and I know that 10 of them don't do me any good because when I only take these 5, I feel 1,000% better. However, if I don't take the 15, I have to take a blood test every month with the VA. And if they don't find the content of some of these drugs in my system, they will lower my disability rating. And he was 100% disabled rating. Well, what do you do if you can't hold down a job and can't do something and that's your only source of income, and now all of a sudden, because you don't take these pills that you know aren't doing you any good? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that bothers me when it comes to drugs. Are there cases where medication is good? Yeah, absolutely, there are cases, but I still think our veterans are way overdosed with drugs at this point in time.
I think our society's
Well, there's no doubt about that. Yes?
You mentioned your selection process, and you mentioned you get a lot of referrals by word of mouth. And I'm thinking of what you were emphasizing, the fact that you know that there are people who truly need the help as opposed to people who may not necessarily do it. How are you going to reach those people who may be, like, especially if they're a veteran, not an active duty, and they really need the help, and they've never heard you, and they're not engaging with other people? Do you have a way to, any kind of referral system you're doing through the VA or support groups or anything? At
the moment, the answer to your question is no. And the reason is we can't handle what we've got right now. And so to go out and to do kind of outreaches like that would be negative toward the individual. The last thing we want to do is get a bunch of people's hopes up that we've got something for them and we can't even get into a retreat. That is exactly why we're trying to build a new facility here, because we can get more capacity. Our hope is that we will be able to do 40 retreats a year at the facility here. And we do not, our retreats are not quantity oriented. We will never be quantity oriented. You know, I wish I could say that we could even touch. We don't have any idea what the total demand for this is, what we're doing, because we're always booked. We've always had a backlog since the start. You know, we thought it was a big deal when we first started out. We were doing 4 retreats and we had a backlog. You know, last year we did 38 retreats and we still got a backlog. You know, and it's like we can't catch up. But I think probably at the time that we get this facility open, and there's another one in the wind, right, even behind that. If we get those 3 facilities, then we will start doing outreaches like you're talking about, that go into the VA, go to other medical providers, to other medical groups. We do some things like in Texas, which I really hope to bring here to the local area. I've talked to some of the military groups that are in the area here. We have a group in Texas. It's called Combined Arms. What Combined Arms is about, I guess almost 6 years ago now, a group of us started to get fed up with what I'll call imitation veteran service support organizations. Okay? I mean, people that are out there that take all this great money that could go to help the soldiers, and they're just pocketing it or doing something with it. I know one case where a guy built a $10 million ranch up in Montana 3 years ago, moved him and his family into the ranch, and he's had one fishing trip for 5 soldiers in that 3-year period. And that's what he claims is his nonprofit thing. But he got $10,000 of money that could have gone to other causes. So we said, what do we do to try to eliminate all of this stuff? So we, specifically in the Houston community, we got together and we said, okay, what are all the services that a soldier needs? Especially looking at it from somebody transitioning out, right? When they get out, what do they need? You know, They need help with their benefits. They need somebody to help them with their claims. They need to find a new job. They need mental health issues. And we identified all of those pieces. And we specifically identified the best organizations in the Houston community. And then we went out to Texas further with it that could provide these services. And now there's a referral source that everybody in the state of Texas knows they can call Combined Arms, and Combined Arms will hook them up with the right people. And it doesn't sound like a big deal, but if anybody, for you, those that have been in the nonprofit world, you know how people are weird. They, instead of working together as a community for a holistic solution, everybody's like, oh, but you're going to steal my donors if you do this and do that. Well, at Lone Survivor Foundation, we don't care. If you help the soldiers, I don't care. I always say this myself, you know, I'm not some young chicken that's out there. You know, I've got some age under me, and I'm more than happy to see the day when somebody else can do what we're doing better than we can, and we can either move our funds and our efforts to them. But right now, there's nobody. Right now, Lone Survivor Foundation is doing more retreats dealing with the issues than any other organization in the United States right now. And we're just doing the tip of the iceberg. I get approached all the time. I just got approached by a first responders group, actually a police department up in Tennessee, where they've had three their policemen have been shot in the last 18 months. And they've been trying all kinds of therapy and stuff with their individuals, and it's not working. And they have come to us and said, could you do a special retreat for our department? And, you know, and it's like, we'd love to, but our mission is to soldiers right now. You know, I hope the day comes when we've got enough capacity where we can do it. We can open it up to all our first responders. Because trauma is a huge thing. People don't realize it. It's not just the soldiers. The soldiers is maybe the most obvious case, but you see the first responders. You got trauma issues with most cancer patients. You got trauma issues with people that have been in car wrecks. I mean, just personal issues that people need this kind of services. So we hope to keep growing, but we can only do that with the support of individuals in the community. Because again, we don't get any money from the government. So, yes, sir.
You ever hear from any of the attendees afterwards, track the efficacy of how?
Oh yeah, we stay in touch with all of them. Part of it is our normal process because, as I said, we have a progressive process. So if you were a veteran, for example, and you went to one of our retreats, and maybe you went to a retreat that dealt both with traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress. You can't have traumatic brain injury without having post-traumatic stress. They go hand in hand. You got to have. And you left that program. We'll give you, basically, as I said, a toolkit and a roadmap as to here's how you can progress. And we will follow you for a period of time to see how you're doing. And if you're tracking along with that, we'll say to you, all right, so are you at a point that you'd like to work on your spousal or your significant other relationship if you have one? And if we think you're at that point, we bring you back for a couples retreat. Well, then we do the same thing. We give you a roadmap and a toolkit. Here's what you do going forward with that. Well, if you do that, well, do you have a family? Do you want to bring the kids back? And then we do a family retreat after that. And then we will follow. We do a lot of stuff. You know, we try to help people find a purpose, too, when they're leaving. Because one of the big things that we find with a lot of the soldiers is that they become lethargic and withdrawn. And they don't feel like they have a purpose anymore. And sometimes the purpose is a whole lot different than what they're thinking. And so we try to help expose people to all kinds of things, from artwork to music to car racing to all kinds of things. So we have people all over. We've got 3 or 4 people that have gone on that have actually in the last 2 years are cutting albums and becoming pretty well known. I don't know if I can, Any of you ever heard of the Scooter Brown Band? Okay, well, he's a former Army Ranger that, you know, has been involved with us intricately with his stuff. He was just picked by Billboard magazine as one of the 10 up-and-coming musicians in the country. Okay, here's a soldier that was in this condition of being lethargic and pulled down, and now he's out there, and he's a great example. And we use him as a mentor for some of the people that go to our retreats that have an interest in music, to the point where 2 guys that he is mentoring cut their first albums this year. And what's so cool about them, one of them, the guy who cut his album, his first album, he is donating all the proceeds of his album sales to the Lone Survivor Foundation, because he says, I'd still be sitting on a couch somewhere doing nothing if I wasn't. The other guy did a song that for military people really hit home. It's called 22, which relates to the supposed 22 veteran suicides that happen every day. All the proceeds of that song came to the Lone Survivor. So we do follow along. They're important to us. 2 weeks ago, I was at a Professional Rifle Association match. There's only like 15 of them a year in the United States. And one of the gentlemen who I met very early on at one of our retreats, in fact, I joked with him, he used to be our poster boy for about 4 years on our website. He called me about 2 months before the match and said, and I knew Robert was an avid hunter, and he said, any chance I could get into this rifle competition? And I kind of snickered at first, because the 50 of the top 55 ranked riflemen in the world were attending this competition. So it's up there, and it had been booked for like, I don't know, probably 6 months in advance. All the spots were taken up. And I said, well, I do happen to know the guy that's running the event, so I called him up, and son of a gun, if one of the professionals didn't say, you know what, I want to help this guy so much, and he gave him his spot. Robert was so sky high when that event was over, and he was so excited because he didn't come in last. His goal was not to come in last. I think it was I got 152 people. He just didn't want to come in last, kind of thing. And he did, and he immediately signed up with all the local associations. So we're always working to try to help people get out in the community and find a purpose for themselves too.
So once you've solidified the real estate here in Fayetteville County, when do you anticipate offering the first retreat?
Hopefully within 7 months of when 7 months of when we break ground. It all depends on the deed process and all of that, which special hearings and all of that. Which hopefully, piece of property we're looking at, I think that's going to happen very smoothly because of certain conditions. But so hopefully by, with any luck, we'll be talking starting the second quarter of next year. That's what we're hoping for. Yes?
Yeah, I was wondering about the timeline of when you were going to be interviewing for staff and contracting for that person that's going to provide yoga, et cetera, et cetera.
That process has been underway for over 5 months. A lot of you know a lady in town here named Kelsey Timmis. Kelsey's already on board. She's going to be helping with our yoga and some of our wellness things at some of our retreats. We have several gala people that have been and shadowed our retreats. We go through that. I'll tell you, as many retreats and as many things as we do, we are lean and mean. We have 11 people on staff, period. We do everything through volunteers and through contractors. Our administrative costs are 7% of everything that we spend. We are very conscious of having the money go where the money needs to go. And so part of the process, and it's one of the hardest things that people don't realize, is to find a group of therapists and wellness people that can work well as a team. I'll leave it at that, okay? It's very hard, and our process is we do what we call a shadow process, and nobody can go on to one of our retreats. We bring them in, we pay for them, the therapists to come in, and they get to actually shadow the retreats. And at the end of the retreats, our other therapists do a vote on, is this somebody we want to continue to try to work on our team? And then we extend consultant contracts with the people who want to do it. It's an amazing process because if you think about it, most therapists, and I'm not trying to offend any therapists that may be in the room, most therapists, they work with clients for an hour and a half, and then you come back a week later or a month later or whatever, and they see it. Well, all of a sudden, the therapist that we're working with, we say to them, okay, you are responsible for these two soldiers. The overall coordination of all of the other input from all of the other therapists, but you have the main lead with these two soldiers 24/7 for the next 5 days. And for a lot of them, it's just way too much. We've also seen a lot of cases where things that happen in the therapy trigger stuff within the therapists themselves, and they can't deal with the issues themselves. 3 out of 4 therapists that we bring in and shadow do not qualify, and we are very selective before we even bring anybody in. Our intent is, though, to have all of the counselors that will be under contract, with the possible exception of our lead therapist, to be from the community here in the local North Carolina area.
When you say contract, you mean that you pay them?
Yeah, they're to get the right therapist to come in on a weekend, and we don't pay them anywhere near what they could make working those 5 days. But we have found that if you want to get the right people and keep the right people coming back, you got to pay them something. I can tell you, it's nothing. It's nothing what they're used to. If they added up their normal hourly rates, they kind of throw up on it, looking at what we've done. But you know, it's like part of it is just becoming ultimately part of that team, and that's what we want. We don't want them to just go, oh, well, that was nice, and I'll do it once a year, because the more the team can gel together, the better they work together when everybody knows what one person's strengths are and what another's weaknesses are, so that if somebody is demonstrating a certain symptom at a retreat, they know exactly who on the team is the one that could probably best deal or address that issue.
So, Terry, what can this community do for you?
The biggest thing is we need the support to get this facility up and going. So that includes financial, it includes volunteers. We need a lot of volunteers to help us spread the word and to do a lot of events. Morgan is going to be our boots on the ground here, coordinating a lot of the volunteer. We've already got events coming up. We've got an event this Friday night, for example, with the Rape Crisis Center that we're doing in connection with the military sexual trauma stuff that we do. We're doing that. We've got an event coming up in June with the All-American event with Harley Davidson, their biggest event that they do during the year. We're going to be the benefactor of their event there. We'll be there. And then we've got following last weekend in June, an event with the Swamp Dogs that we're putting on at their stadium. So, I mean, we're out in the community. We've done a lot of outreach to people. I've been working closely with the Business Economic Development Committee here for Cumberland County, but we need people to let the word get out. We need volunteers to say, hey, you know about this organization? Donations. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, $5, $10, whatever anybody can give. Everybody has a different level. We can use all the help and the support. I'll tell you this facility is probably going to cost around $1.7 million to build. Lone Survivor has the money to build that thing on its own right now. We don't actually need any financial support to build it if we wanted to. Here's the difference. We want to use that $1.7 million to pay for the soldiers and not get to the point where we've got to go to the government and other organizations to get the help. We want the money to go to the help and not the physical facility itself. In Bolivar, that place down there, we originally set out with a goal, that cost $1.2 million to build. We started out with a goal of lone survivor putting in $500,000, trying to get the community to donate supplies and goods and everything, as well as the community helping us to raise money. It turned out lone survivor put in zero. 70% of the facility was built on contributions of building supplies. One of my board building supplies and actually the labor to go into it. And the other 30% came from people of the community that did fundraisers, made donations, whatever. I'm happy to tell you we already have a $250,000 donor for this facility from the community here, whose name will stay anonymous for right now. But so we're off to a good start in the community, but that's what we'd like to do. The more money we can not spend on the bricks and mortar, the more soldiers we can help.
So if I wanted to donate, how would I donate?
The easiest way is to either contact Morgan directly, or you can go online to our website, which is www.lonesurvivorfoundation.org. You can go on. There's all different ways you can donate. As a business, as an individual, you can do one-time, monthlies, and then a lot of people help us raise money by doing events on our behalf. We'd just be the beneficiary. We're happy to work with people on an event, whether it's a 5K run, whether it's a swap dog activity or whatever. There's always activities that can be done. There's a million ways that people can get involved in that. And then just spread the word that we're here. We want the community to feel like this facility is theirs. That this is a community project. Our name, we never had a naming opportunity in Bolivar. I mean, the fact that we've got a $250,000 donor already here, we never had anywhere near that when we built in Texas to start. The facility will have that individual's name on the facility. It's not going to have one survivor's name on it. It's going to have the individual. We don't care about the brick and mortar. All we want to do is help the soldiers.
Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Terry.
you.